are all unique and have our own personal story. So dive in with me and let's get to know some extraordinary people. Hey guys, this week's episode, I got to sit down with my older brother, Ashley, a music fanatic, very talented guy. I'm excited for you to hear his episode.
I am ready.
Okay, we're here with Ashley Hall, J. Ashley Hall. Yes. Do you ever go by John? Ever?
Well, you know, I travel, my passport's John.
Right.
So it confuses people because when I check into hotels, it's John.
Yeah.
Airport is John.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of a pain. That's like Davy's name is Randolph David Ryder.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we're here with John Ashley Hall. He goes by Ash, my older brother, my first sibling to interview.
The first male I've noticed, I think.
Yes, you are the first male. Yes, so you are. You.
Of course. Thank you for the privilege.
Well, it's just a pleasure to have you. I'm honored that you'll take time out of your vacation to come do this.
Yeah. No, we're excited.
So we are going to dive in. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
We're going to see where it goes. If you could play on stage with one band or musician, dead or alive, who would you be on stage with and what song would you play?
Oh, wow. Okay. Man, that's a good question. I'd probably say The Cure because I love The Cure. Mm-hmm. And that's always been a dream of mine to play in a Cure cover band.
Right. I've heard you talk about that.
Yeah. So, and I can play basically every part of every Cure song except for drums. So I think that would be my
okay. So The Cure
choice. Yeah.
Now, what song would you sing if you could just perform one song on stage?
Well, one I love to do is Just Like Heaven. And I know it's a very popular song, but I just absolutely love that song. I know Robert Smith loves that song. He calls it 2.5 minutes of bliss.
Wow.
So I think that would be great.
Okay. How many times have you seen The Cure in concert?
Oh, probably close to 10 times, I think.
Jeez.
Yeah.
How many concerts have you been to? If you had to guess.
You know, I do know the number because so my journal is now a database of different things. And one of my tables is concerts.
Wow.
So I now log them all. So 267 concerts.
267
or 267 bands I've seen.
Wow.
Now that's
but
not
you've seen a lot of those bands multiple
more than
times.
Once. Yeah. So I haven't gone and looked at how many unique bands that I've seen. So there's some like The Cure, Depeche Mode.
I mean, and you've seen them
a few times.
Yeah.
But
wow, that's pretty impressive. I would say out of anybody in our family, you are the one that has you and Dad, but probably you to a little more detail, your life most well documented.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think now, but Dad's been doing this for years and years.
Right.
I took a break for several years not doing it. So.
Right, but Dad writes in his journal every day of his life. You document a lot, not just your database. Haven't you tracked every penny you and Nikki have spent since you've been married?
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so fascinated by that.
I don't control it. I don't manage it well, but I do track it.
Okay. And then all your photographs, not to mention, I mean, you take a ton of photographs and they're all very well organized. So you've been a huge asset in our family, just even organizing all the photographs from Mom and Dad growing up, all of our families. Okay. So going back to music. Okay. Uh-huh. The Cure, Just Like Heaven. You've seen The Cure 10 times.
Yeah.
Okay, if you had to, we know you'd be with The Cure. Yeah. If you had to pick the venue for this concert, what venue?
Royal Albert Hall.
I had a feeling you'd say that. That's awesome.
I love that place.
That is awesome. Okay, so Ashley, we know one of your biggest passions is music. Was it your undergrad? Well, tell me what your undergrad was in. You had a double major.
Yeah, double major.
From Brigham Young.
Yeah, Brigham Young. So it was music and humanities with Portuguese literature emphasis.
Wow. And was it music composition?
Well, no, music? Actually, yeah. So music, so you could do a Bachelor of Music, a BM.
Okay.
Or a Bachelor of Arts. So I did the Bachelor of Arts instead. And so that's more of the academic. So it's more of... well, I don't know if it's more academic, but it's less on the performance. So when you're a music major, you have to play juries and things like that. But when you're a Bachelor of Music, you have to play these recitals. And so a BA, you don't have to do that. So, but my emphasis was composition. And then for instrument, I picked cello.
Nice.
And so sometimes I regret, maybe I should have just done the BM as composition. So because that would have been fun. The recitals wouldn't have been me performing,
right?
But it would have been people playing my music,
your music,
which I really like to do. Because I love to play, but I think I really like to write.
You do,
yeah.
Well, and you've written a lot of music, and you've had a lot of people play a lot of your music.
Somewhat.
You have.
Yeah, there is some. Yeah.
Okay, so when did you develop this passion for music?
Wow.
If you had to go back in time and pinpoint a moment, is there a particular moment that you remember?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I think, we're talking before the podcast about the Wilburs. Mm-hmm. So back in, what year was it? Around my freshman, sophomore year of high school, our neighbors, Frank and Corinne Wilbur. Frank was an amazing musician. So he was a pianist. He used to play at all the wedding receptions and had a beautiful grand piano.
Yeah.
He used to be like my accompanist when I have to play the cello or voice or whatever. And I remember he had gone to Mesa and he went to a music store and he was a victim of a huge sales pitch. So guys like, if you play at weddings, you need this whole gear. So it was a Yamaha DX27 synthesizer, a drum machine, a sequencer, and a 4-track recorder. Mm-hmm. And sounded great, so you could like do all this music. So the idea would be, hey, I can play weddings, but I'd have all this background music to support me, etc. And so I remember going there and seeing all this gear. And this was the time I was getting into electronic music, really into Depeche Mode and OMD and all that. And I'd always liked electronic music. My first record, by the way, was Don't You Want Me by Human League, 1980.
Nice. And this is a vinyl?
Yeah, the old 45, nice. Right? So I'd always liked electronic music. So here's my neighbor with this synthesizer, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And so Frank had no idea how to figure this stuff out. I had no idea. So we literally spent weeks just figuring out what is a 4-track recorder. It wasn't obvious that, it's recording 4 different tracks and how the sequencer worked and all that. And so I remember on the drum machine figuring out how to program Blue Monday, that all that stuff. But so I think that's where I really got the passion because, I could actually I didn't play guitar at the time, so I played with piano and like cello and all.
Yeah.
But I could like recreate this electronic music on the synthesizer and 4-track. So I think that's the turning point where I really got obsessed and started writing and.
I'd never realized that Frank was such an influence in your music.
Yeah, definitely.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and he was so nice about it. And I remember after a while, so I would always have to, I'd call him up, hey, can I come over?
Right.
Can we record? And then after, I don't know, a couple of years of this, he's like, why don't you just take the equipment?
Really?
And Mom hated it, right? That damn synthesizer. It's so repetitive. It just goes on and on. So I had another friend, you'd know, Kevin Burdick. His mom's like, well, yeah, we can keep it at the Burdick's house. So once we had that within our domain, right, we just really started recording and doing a lot.
How old were you at this? Are you in middle school, high school?
This one, I was still in high school.
Okay.
So Frank got this. I'm trying to remember the exact year. It's probably around my freshman, sophomore year. But it wasn't until like my senior year that Frank said,
go ahead and take it.
Go ahead and take it. And my senior year is also when Pi Hershey moved into St. John's. So that was probably another influence, right? Because I met this kid first day of school. In fact, I've got the entry in my journal because I remember, hey, Rebecca Biggs introduced me to this guy named Pi. And
right.
Yeah, so I know the day I met him.
And Pi Hershey, nonetheless.
Yeah, Pi Hershey.
Awesome.
And he had the same drum machine that Frank had.
Really?
Yeah, he traded in his drum set for a drum machine, which now seems like crazy, right?
Yeah.
But because years later we're trying to save up money for a drum set. But,
right. So you meet him first day of school, senior year.
Yeah, I meet him. He plays piano. He can play drums. He can play anything you give him, and same music, and he was listening to the Clash and the English Beat and
nice.
All this like stuff. And
right.
so, we became really good friends. So that's when we started our band called the Slamheads.
The Slamheads.
Yeah. So that was my senior year.
What year was this?
Senior year of high school.
So
And,
1980.
1987, because that was that fall. And so we started writing our little songs then. And then, I don't know, it was probably into the next year. Then we invited Kevin Burdick to play with us as well.
Nice.
So it was like the three of us. And
so you were the three original Slamheads.
Yeah. And so it was a purely electronic band. But it was weird because like one synthesizer, a drum machine. And so you just loop stuff.
Right.
And, on these 8 tracks, like there's 4 tracks, so you can record 1, 2, 3 tracks. You bounce out to a 4th track. Then you add another track, and you bounce out to another track.
That is awesome.
It was painful, but it was fun. It was, yeah. So yeah, that's where I got my passion for music.
Okay, where did you get the name Slamheads? How did you come up with that?
Well, we did like some punk music. And I mean, I think of it now, it probably wasn't the hardest core punk, but the Ramones, the Clash, of course, and it was slam dancing back then.
Yeah.
And we just thought it was funny. And so we just did a song called the Slamhead Song. And then that's how we did it.
How fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started the Slamheads band in high school, St. John's, Arizona, small little town. Do you remember your first show?
Yeah, well, that's harder to. Yeah, well, I do. I think now that I think about what our first show was, we played in the high school band, right? And so my senior year, I had braces, and I didn't like the band teacher, so I stopped playing trumpet, which I played for years and years, because I always wanted to be a drummer.
Right.
So I'm like learning drums and all, but the band teacher I think we just drove her nuts, because Pi is this awesome drummer. But anyway, for some reason, she had to be out of town, and she offered Pi and I to play be the pep band for the high school basketball game. So we got really excited. So we went and we had there were 2 other kids in town that had synthesizers. A guy named Les Anderson and then Jeannie Farr. And I'm trying to remember whose synthesizer we borrowed, or maybe it was both of them. Maybe we didn't even borrow Frank's. But we had 2 synthesizers and a drum machine and a sequencer. And the whole game, we're playing like little clips from like Depeche Mode.
That's awesome.
And OMD. And like, I remember there's a Cameo song. This is a horrible band, Cameo, but it was like this Word Up song that had a cool synth line. And our assistant principal hated it. So he kept, like, every time we play, he'd come running over, you're too loud, or stop, or you're playing. And I think about halfway through, he literally, like, pulled the plug on us, like, pulled the power, and he kicked us out. But that was our first gig. So
how did you feel performing?
I loved it. I thought it was great, because I'm sure the people didn't want to hear us, but they were stuck there. And you know what it was in St. John's? Well, you probably don't remember, but
I remember you.
Like the whole town comes out for these games. So
right.
You've got the whole gym full, and we're playing all these little things.
Some of my most vivid memories of St. John's are you making your videos, jumping on the trampoline, doing your tricks on the trampoline, and music. In particular, Erasure, OMD. I remember cleaning the house to OMD and Depeche Mode and Yaz and all that good 80s music. Yeah. It's fantastic.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was actually listening to it on my way over here to pump me up for this podcast. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was our first gig. And then I think our first official gig, they had like a county talent show.
Okay.
And so like we wrote a song for it and we played, but I remember... I won't say who it was, but some of St. John's that had a real band. It was like parents and all. They were like really rude to us.
Aww.
And, you guys aren't a real band, because like we didn't have guitar or anything like that. But I think that kind of stuck in.
Did that kind of spark you? And you know what? We'll show you.
Yeah, well, I think the guitar is cool, so.
Yeah.
So when I went to college, obviously I started playing more guitar. And then after Pi, when he got off his mission, we kind of turned the corner. And I mean, I still love electronic music and all, but we started doing like the live stuff.
Right.
But
so you and Pi both went to BYU.
Yeah.
And so you obviously carried on with your band, the Slamheads.
Yeah.
Did you play all 4 years at BYU?
No. Freshman year, I'm a year older than Pi.
Okay.
Yeah. So Pi was still in high school my freshman year.
I didn't realize that.
So that, I mean, I played a lot of music, but it was all the guys on the floor had these guitars, and there was 2 guys on my floor that played in a band. They were like legit guys. One was a bass player, and the other was a guitarist. And so we go in the room, and I mess around with electric guitars. And someone gave me this little Parlor 3/4 size guitar that I wish I would have held on to, because I had it until I got married, and then I left it at my apartment. But so that's why I have my own little guitar, and we just sit on the floor and just play U2 and Beatles, and so that's where I really learned to play a lot of guitar. And then on my mission, I played a lot because everyone has guitars in Brazil,
right? And
so then when Pi got off his mission, we started playing, and that's when we started renting a drum set, and found a couple other people to play with us. And
wow. I feel like with the Slamheads, you've had a lot of people come and go in the band.
Yeah.
Your friend Randy, Pi, I'm sure several I don't even know.
Yeah. We've had a few.
But so do you still consider yourself active member of the Slamheads?
Yeah, I do. I mean, Pi and I still do. We talk about it.
I feel like you need a reunion show.
Yeah, we need to. We used to do that every once in a while. I mean, the good news, when I was in Arizona, Pi was always here. So we would always do stuff.
Right.
Although the last few years I was here, we would play, but we weren't, like, the last album we did was like in my first house in Chandler. So that was probably, I don't even know what year it was, but when I moved to that other house, we were there 5 years. We never recorded an album.
Wow.
But we did lots of shows and stuff, but we do reunion shows. We had Kevin come back and play a few times.
Nice.
With us, and
that's wonderful. Okay, so you have, like you said, you've written a lot of music. You've had people play your music. I have a feeling you probably dream up an ideal album in your head. Do you? Do you ever think, oh, I'm going to write this perfect album, just this golden album?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, what would the album be called? Have you ever thought about that?
Well, so I have done concept pieces before, but most of them have been like some of my piano stuff or like classical stuff. But so the one for the band that I dreamt years ago is a song, an album about colors.
Oh,
right, because each color has
some emotion
stuff.
And feeling.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like the first song I wrote was a song called Blue, and then I was going to go through the whole spectrum, but never got to it. So that song ended up being on one of our other albums, but I'd still like to do that because I think that would be a cool one, right? All the different colors and
all the different emotions behind it. What's your favorite color?
Well, when I was a kid, it was always blue, but I think it's probably, I don't know. I think I like a lot of green. My kids say I like these puke colors. So like
your golden car.
Yeah, my golden car, which absolutely, these weird, those greens or oranges or whatever that golden car was.
Right.
The one I was so proud of that car. My neighbor, I bring it home and the neighbor says, "Oh, did you get a discount on that car because of that horrible color?"
Oh, that is so funny. Did Julie? I have this memory of, I think it was Julie or Sarah drove that car to Utah for you or something. I don't remember, but I remember Julie and Sarah making a joke to their friends saying, it was after Easter, and they said, we found the golden egg and we won this car. And they had friends convinced that was their car because they found the golden egg.
That's so funny. I love that car.
So, okay, now you have 3 daughters.
Yeah, 3 daughters.
Do you ever associate a color with each kid? For example, I always associate yellow with Emma.
Yeah.
Just maybe because they're blonde hair and just that delightful personality.
Yeah.
Do you ever associate a color to your kids?
Well, it's funny. I mean, you ask a question, I'm like, I've never thought about it. But actually, we sort of do. Because even when they were younger, like, McKenna's always the purple girl, right? Her bedroom.
They kind of gravitate towards,
is painted purple. All her stuff is purple.
Right.
Stacy's never been a pink type of girl, so it's usually blue. Emma's all girl pink.
Yeah.
And it's funny you ask that because Christmas stockings, I bought them all Pop Rocks from England.
Oh, nice.
And Stacy got the blue pack. Emma got the yellow. There wasn't a purple one, so I think poor McKenna got or sorry, I forgot which ones I said. Stace got blue, Emma got pink, and I think McKenna got yellow because it wasn't purple. But yeah, I think it's usually, it's the purple for McKenna, pink for Emma, blue for Stace.
So you said you got them in England.
Yeah.
Tell us why you were in England.
Well, I work for a British company, so I go to England about every month for work.
Every month. And you had the opportunity to live over there for a couple
of
years.
Yeah, lived there for 2 years. Yep.
How was that experience?
Well, I absolutely loved it. My family, they talk about it as like one of their challenges, but McKenna liked it.
Right.
And she still talks about it fondly, but I think it was good. I mean, I still don't back down. I think it was good for the family.
Yeah,
but it was tough.
awesome.
But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved everything.
And you
about
lived
it.
just outside of London?
Well, no, on the
hours?
South Coast, 2-hour drive,
Nice.
2-hour train trip. It's right, beautiful area, a place called Highcliffe-on-Sea, which it's got a Christchurch postcode, and the biggest city next to it is Bournemouth. So it's a beautiful area right on the ocean. It's a 10-minute walk from our house to the sea.
And you've traveled. I mean, how many? I know I've asked you this before.
Yeah.
How many countries? You have to have tallied these up.
Well, I have tallied them because again, I've been obsessed with this database journal that I do. So everywhere I'm at, I put where I'm at, and so it'll map to countries. The only problem is my oldest daughter Stacy has big debates with me because what constitutes a country, right? So. Give
us an example.
In the UK, right? The UK is technically England, Scotland, Wales. They're different countries.
Right.
Stacey's like, no, it's one.
That counts as one.
Right.
Interesting.
Hong Kong. Right. I've always counted that as a separate country, but it is part of China.
Right.
Macau.
Right.
But you do have to have a visa if you're Chinese to go to Hong Kong.
Okay, let's separate them out.
Then the Caribbean, you've got like St. Martin, which is half of it's owned by Netherlands, the other half is owned by forget who, but so that's where it gets weird. But as far as legit countries, it's hard to know. But I'd say it's probably safe, say 40.
Wow,
like legit countries.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But I've got big gaps. So I've never been on the African continent like you have.
That surprises me.
I would love to go there. I've never been to Australia or New Zealand, so I've got some big gaps.
Well, you'll hit them all.
Well,
you will.
I've got a long way to go.
That's awesome. So you're on the road a lot. I mean, not technically. Well, you are on the road a lot too, but in the air a lot.
Yeah.
So how has music helped you with your travel? I imagine it plays a big role, right?
Yeah.
Do you listen? Would you say you listen to more music or more podcasts, books?
I definitely always have lots of music. I like to read a lot. But I do get tired easily when I read, so I listen to books a lot.
Nice.
So, and I call myself a voracious reader now. I'm just finished my 71st book of the year.
Wow.
Today.
71st in the year.
Yeah. But so I like to read when I can sit down and read, but a lot of time I'm driving or I'm doing what. So I've got this app that will read to me, and I've got it to where it can read about 250 words a minute.
Wow.
So, and I pick a weird accent just because it takes the computer edge off of it.
Right.
But my girls, it drives them nuts, right? And then Emma says I'm always cheating. So I know you're listening to books, but I'm like, it doesn't matter how you do it.
That counts. You're absorbing the content.
So I do a lot of that on the plane too. So if it's not music, I'm listening to books.
Right. So you're using your time wisely. What's your favorite book you've listened to or read this year?
This year, that's a good question. That's a good question. I mean, there's been some good ones, right? I guess the one I'm most proud of doesn't mean I enjoyed it the best, but I read the longest book in the English language, Clarissa by Samuel Richardson, I believe. Sorry. Should have studied up. Clarissa is the book.
And so did you read this one or did you listen to it?
The combination. Okay. A lot of it was listening to, but it's like 1 million words. It's like a long book, but it's one that it's like I've wanted to read forever and ever. But it was quite, I mean, it's great, but it's just a bunch of letters.
Yeah.
So I think, someone could literally write that book in 200 pages.
Right.
and just get the story out.
Was it a decent story?
But yeah, it's a tragic story. If you want to read it, you should read it. It's a very sad story.
Do they have an abridged version?
There's gotta be.
There's gotta be, right?
There's gotta be, but I haven't. I'm sure if you were to Google like longest books in the world, that'll come up.
Wow.
Yeah, but no, I love biographies too. So there's been some good ones. I read a really good one on Roald Dahl, the children's author. Yeah, I thought it was good. It's called Storyteller. Read a bunch. Good book on Martin Luther earlier this year.
Nice.
Tyndale. Sometimes I'll just get on these subjects and just
go
kind of exhaust them. Really enjoyed the new Saints Volume 1 that the LDS Church has published. So thought that was good. Narrative history.
Nice. So if you could compose a score for a movie based on one individual. So basically it could be a historical fiction or a biography, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I could see you writing a score for a movie.
Yeah. I'd love to do it. So I know he's not saying anything, but my brother Jeff's sitting over there. Jeff has awesome ideas, and he planted this idea a couple years ago about the story of our Uncle Rick. What a tragic story, and he wants to do this, and I want to do that. I think that would be. It's personal, right? I know him, but there's so much to that, right? So I'd love to do that. I guess the question would be is, do you do justice to that?
That person. I think you could do it. So our Rick is our uncle who passed away. How long has it been? A couple of years? Probably 3 or 4 years. I remember I was touching down in Ottawa. I was actually got a voicemail from Mom right as the plane was taking off. And she's like, Amy, call me. She sounded serious. And she was watching Cece at the time. And I couldn't get a hold of her. And so we had to take off, and I was on this long flight, and it was the worst. It was like the worst 3 or 4 hours of my life because I was stressed as something was going on with Cece, and because Mom was watching her. And then I'll never forget landing in Ottawa and listening to a voicemail and letting me know that Uncle Rick had passed, and that was so sad. But his story's heavy. I would say there's a lot of beautiful parts to a story, a lot of tragic parts to a story. So I could see a good range in music there, right? Yeah. I think you guys need to do that. Jeff always challenges me. So on our podcast, Jeff always challenges our guests to do things. So today I'm going to challenge my producer and my brother to do this. All right. You guys really ought to do it.
You got to do it, Jeff. I think it's an awesome idea when Jeff talked about it. And Jeff, he's got some awesome ideas on how to approach it. So
yeah, you really
I want to do it. And I just think I remember sitting down with Grandpa Hall and him, we've all heard the story, but just me and him, and he's telling me the story of that Father's Day when those boys get dropped off at his house. And,
here are these two little boys, 2 and 4, roughly.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, probably.
And their dad drops them off at their aunt and uncle's house
on Father's Day.
And
he has 2 girlfriends in the car waiting for him. So he's just, here you go, got to take off. Just tragic.
And the whole backstory, leading up to that Father's Day. Yeah. Wow, that's heavy. I think you need to do it. You could write the score for that.
All right.
That's a big responsibility, but you need to do it. That's wonderful. Okay, Ash. Music.
Yeah.
Other than Frank, growing up, any other major influencer in your life?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this. I even wrote a song once about my first music teachers.
Really?
So, it started off, my first piano teacher was Mrs. Hext. Do you remember Ethel Hext?
No, I don't remember
She's
her.
still alive because I'm friends with her daughter, and she'll post pictures of her, but she's in her 90s. She lived on the way to Springerville. So I don't know if she's in the town of Silao or what, but just this little house in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
And then Josephine Platt.
Yeah, remember her. Yep.
And then
Mrs. Reed, was she one of yours?
Yeah, I finally got to Mrs. Reed. Then I did Dr. Weinzinger for years. So he was the guy, he was a professor at NAU that would come to St. John's once a month and stay with Hicks family, and he'd just teach all sorts of people from St. John's. But that was once a month, and I'd never practiced till like the night before. And so finally in high school, Mom found out about this Mrs. Reed, who not only did she do piano, but cello and violin. So all through high school, I was with Mrs. Reed.
Okay. When did you start the cello? Because you're a concert cellist.
Well, not concert.
Yes, you are. You're very modest, but you are very talented.
I love the cello, but every time I hear a recording of myself play the cello, I'm really bad.
Really?
Yeah. But I do love it. I'll never stop playing cello. So I started piano, I think, right when we moved to St. John's. Okay. Mom got the piano and we started right away. Cello was I think 3rd grade, so 7, almost 8. Mm-hmm. And that was Mrs. Overson she did all the strings in St. John's.
Okay.
And then from her, we bounced around a lot. And I tell you, our mom's a saint on this because she used to drive me to Flagstaff for lessons.
How often?
Like once or twice a month.
Jeez.
There's a professor there.
3-hour drive, 4-hour drive?
Yeah, at least 3 hours. So we used to go to these camps, music camps, and we'd go to NAU. And so one of the cello professors there was a woman named Nadine Bean. So I took from her. And again, that, I didn't practice like I should, but, I studied with her. There was a guy at ASU named Dr. He's a Japanese gentleman. He was huge. He had the biggest hands I'd ever seen. I have to remember his name. And then I remember just some crazy cello. Like I had this cello teacher in Snowflake that, I had the 3/4 cello, but shortly after Mom and Dad bought the full-size one just so I'd be ready. So she asked to borrow my full-size cello, which is kind of weird. So the cello teacher didn't even have a cello.
Wow.
But so I just bounced around. So then it was finally, high school with Mrs. Reed. I started playing with her. And she was an interesting teacher because she had severe MS. Oh. So she could barely get around. So she could play the piano, and she's very good at it, but only so much, right? Because she was weak and all. So all the cello was just her communicate, like do this, but
she couldn't show you. That's
I couldn't show you anything. So, and then sort of the same thing with the piano. And then she taught Theron too. And by the way, Theron is a good violinist. So I was watching some of these videos of Grandma and Grandpa's 50th wedding anniversary. After his mission, Theron's playing violin.
Nice.
So when he says he's not a musician, he is. But that's how she taught him violin too. So I think the most I learned from her was just learning music, like listen to yourself, right? The whole, the touch matters and the feeling and all that. She didn't care so much about the technicality.
The perfection. It was more the feel.
You feel it, get that part down, and then the rest will come. So anyway.
So tell me about this song you wrote. What was it?
Oh,
what was it called?
It's a horrible title. I'm embarrassed. It's called 4-String Heroines. It's horrible.
Actually,
and you'll never hear a recording of it.
That's
but I
cool.
do have the words written down.
You should. And do you have like the music too?
Yeah.
You need to record it.
A few years ago, I was doing a project and I thought, I got all these songs I never recorded, but so I did all these just quick, like either with the guitar or the piano, and just like got them.
Good.
Out.
You want to.
But I didn't do that one.
You should. The 4-string heroine.
4-string heroine. That's horrible, isn't it?
Actually,
that's so embarrassing.
Clever.
No, it's bad.
It's not
this part that you'll edit out of your podcast.
No, absolutely not. Okay, so of your 3 girls, you have taken them all to awesome concerts. I love that your girls. I feel like your girls appreciate good music.
Yeah,
who
I
would
think
you
they do.
say is the most musically inclined of your 3 girls, or are they equally?
You know what?
Or who shares that passion with you?
Yeah,
if
well,
any?
it's interesting. I mean, the great news is all 3 love music, and Stacy. We started her off in violin early. She absolutely hated it. She won the battle, stopped it.
Right.
Did piano. By the time she was 13, I hate it. Stopped it. I got her bass guitar, all this stuff, but she just hates playing music, but she loves music.
She appreciates it.
And so we'll go to these shows and we just love it, right? And it touches us, and I'm sure in different ways, but it's something that we share, right?
That's awesome.
And so that's great. Emma loves playing, loves singing, and and she loves going to the shows too. McKenna loves playing and all. McKenna likes going to shows too, but lately she's been on this. She's very aware of dangerous places. It's like this obsession, right? So if you ever ask her, she wants to live in New Zealand because I think she found some article that's like the safest place to live. So she won't go to downtown LA for concerts because it
freaks her out.
It freaks her out. So we have to be careful. So there are concerts. So she does like going to concerts,
right? But
it's sad because like I spend way too much on concerts, right? So this last year we decided for all these shows that come up, I'll buy 2 tickets and then we'll pick the girl that would want to go most or let them choose. So like this summer I got 3 tickets. So like Stacy picked Willie Nelson.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Nice.
Emma picked the Decemberists.
Very cool.
And McKenna picked Simple Minds.
Very cool.
And so it comes the night of the Simple Minds. She finds out, looks up like where the Simple Minds are playing, the Olympia Theater in downtown LA. She's looking at homelessness issues and all that there. So I'm not going. So anyway, that was a bummer.
Oh, bummer.
But we'll get her. But McKenna, we've gone to some great concerts. And she's going to Paul McCartney with us in May, and Emma doesn't know yet because she'll be devastated because she'll be in school and same as Stace, but she'll go to that one.
That's awesome. Is that your next concert, or do you have others before that?
It might. No, actually, I bought Dead Can Dance tickets for Nikki and I in Milan, Italy.
No way.
So I love that band. Nikki hates that band, but
she gets to go.
She gets to go to Milan, yeah. So this European tour, they're playing like iconic outdoor venues, and so
that is
we're
amazing.
doing that. So
you travel a lot for work. We discussed that, and I feel when I was on social media, I would always see your posts. It seems like almost every time you're in the UK, you catch a show.
Yeah, I do try to. That's what's great about London.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
you get all the good
something.
shows.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
Your favorite concert you've ever been to?
Ooh. That's hard.
Okay, let me back up.
I'll tell you, the one this year, I know, I'm probably biased because my brother's sitting over here, but Jeff and I saw Echo and the Bunnymen, Royal Albert Hall in June. And I mean, it was the best trip ever with my brother.
Right.
And I absolutely love Echo and the Bunnymen in the best venue ever.
Yeah.
And they had done for this tour. They've done a record that's been very controversial because they don't call it, what do they call it? Reimaginations of their songs, right? So and so they're different versions. But I loved it. So a lot of piano, strings, all that. But that was fun. I think my favorite concert ever, Stacy and I, Royal Albert Hall, we saw The Cure play for 4 hours.
Wow.
They played 45 songs.
Wow.
It was absolutely amazing.
Wow, that is so neat.
Yeah.
What was your first concert?
So the first concert I think that I ever went to, my Uncle Dennis, after I graduated from 8th grade, I went to California to stay with their family. And he took me to Eddie Rabbitt and Crystal Gale.
Nice.
And I remember, I think I hurt his feelings because I'm like, I'm not into this. Right. And having gained an appreciation of country music, I'm still not into that. Right, Eddie Rabbitt's not,
That is hilarious.
Crystal Gale, at least her sister's Loretta Lynn, right?
Loretta Lynn,
But the first concert I chose to go to, that I wanted to go to, I'm proud of this concert. So it was OMD. And OMD opening for the Thompson Twins.
That's huge.
Yeah, Phoenix Memorial Coliseum. And so my sophomore year in high school.
Wow.
And yeah, I thought that was just amazing.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's funny. I'm trying to think of I have not been to nearly as many concerts as you obviously, or nearly as good of concerts. But one of my favorite ones I saw was in Chile. I went and saw Erasure and No Doubt.
Oh, really?
And they played together. Erasure opened.
Yeah.
And then they sang, a good hour and a half. By the time No Doubt got on, everybody was saying, Moss Erasure, Moss Erasure. They didn't like No Doubt.
Oh, really?
They wanted No Doubt off, and everybody wanted Erasure back on.
That's interesting. Yeah, because that's quite a. I mean, I love both bands, but that's quite a
totally different, right?
Yeah, different.
And then that next weekend, it was what's Gwen Stefani's or Gavin? What's
Gavin?
His name? What was his band's
from
name? Bush playing with David Bowie.
Oh, really?
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, that is cool.
So interesting. Okay, one of the best concerts I went to was a special. It was like a special concert. Probably 250, 300 people. So when we lived in Chile, one of my good friends that I went to high school with, her dad, his job was to bring concerts down to Chile. So, I mean, for her 15th birthday, she's hanging out with the Beastie Boys. I mean, she was associating with all of these people coming down, okay?
Yeah.
So she gave me 2 tickets to go see Bob Dylan. So I'm thinking it's just a normal concert because I went to a lot of concerts in Chile. Yeah. That was when I first was introduced to concerts. So I took Nate. What's his last name? He lived with us. I'm trying to blank. Nate Nichols.
Oh, Nate Nichols. Yeah. For
So Nate Nichols and I go to this Bob Dylan concert. We go in. It is in this venue, small little venue. Just a circle of chairs, a couple of rows, circle of chairs. Bob Dylan sitting in the middle.
Really?
Singing.
How amazing.
And he would just turn. There were max 300 people in there.
That is so cool.
And it was like a special event that he was doing. And she gave us these tickets.
How amazing.
And looking back, like during that time, I just didn't think it was that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But I remember Nate on the taxi ride home, like talking about, oh my gosh, this is such a big deal. This is so awesome. She's like, yeah. But like looking back now, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the guy that changed the Beatles, right? I mean, how amazing.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
That is awesome. I'd love to see Bob Dylan.
But you've been a big influence in our family with music. Seriously.
Yeah.
I remember when I got my first iPod.
Oh, okay.
Probably 2004, 2005. Yeah. I remember I took it to your house and you loaded it up with the best music. And I remember I would just always put that, when I was driving around, I'd always put that iPod on shuffle. Yeah. And I was discovering so many bands that I'd never even heard of. Because you loaded, I mean, it was like 7,000 or 8,000 songs on that iPod.
How fun.
Ashley, you have a site where people can go and download your music, right?
Yeah.
Who has played your music? Are you proud of any particular group or individual that has played some music that you have composed?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I do put on this website. It's for free. I want people to do it. I'm too cheap to pay the service to see permanently who downloads what. But I always I think I can see the last 500. Mm-hmm. And it does get around a bit. Some of them, like one of the one I was most proud of was a choir in China, right? That did one of my arrangements, and it was a professional video and everything. So I don't know what the concert was, and
what was the arrangement?
It was an arrangement. It was one of the first arrangements I ever did. It was All Creatures of Our God and King, just piano, choir, and now it's no longer on YouTube. Oh, so now I keep telling myself when I find these, I need to just
download them.
One thing I do, I love giving it out for free. And I don't market it as an LDS website. Right. So, I'll get notes from like an Episcopal church in England, whatever, singing "I'm a Child of God" in their service or something. Wow. An arrangement.
Your arrangement of that, by the way, is my favorite. I use that in a primary program.
Yeah. So that to me, I like that, right? Because I feel like it brings us together when people are doing stuff. I do get most flattered when people do like my own originals, because I do. I've got maybe 10 or so like original choral pieces that I've just not arranged but just written, and those ones I like because I feel like I'm really touching people. And,
well, while we're on the topic, my original music for Dive In with Amy is okay. It's going to be yours.
It's going to be mine. I owe it to you.
Giving you a little nudge. Get that music. No, I'm kidding.
But it's good. I mean, it's good. Because a lot of times you just don't hear about it. But I know I get quite a few. I've passed the million download.
Really?
Which is great. Makes me feel very good. But you don't hear a lot. But once you hear a letter or something like that, it makes you feel good. Like the Taiwan temple was rededicated a few years ago, and they translated a hymn that I'd written about the temple into Chinese, and they actually sent me the paper. Right, so I have no idea what what these characters mean.
Right.
But I assume it's a rough translation
Right.
of the original.
So you wrote the actual music and the lyrics for this hymn.
Yeah. So then they did it
remarkable.
in the temple, and that same one they did in the LA temple. So that's one that's got me happy. So, you want to share stuff,
right?
But you can't I guess you look pathetic if you're wanting to share stuff. It's weird, right? Like you want people to this is for you, but you can't say, please play my music. But like, I would love nothing more than that same song be done in Rio de Janeiro, because they're doing a temple there, and it should be dedicated in the next year or so.
Ashley, do it.
Yeah, but how,
you
you
got to find a way to get it there.
So I don't know.
That's really
we'll
neat,
see.
Ash.
Yeah, but so that makes me happy when people do the music. And then I've done other songs that I'm not so proud of that have been used for different things. Like there's a song that we did a few years ago that's horrible called Dwarf Throwing, about, I saw this on ESPN. So I wasn't the morbid guy that
you weren't the creator of this concept.
They used to have this show on ESPN 20 years ago, because I remember watching this, of these weird sports, and they're showing these guys throwing these dwarves, right? And so I'm like, you got to write a song about that. And so, we put years ago all the Slamhead music on the internet, and I remember that popped up. There's some dwarf throwing association thing that that song was on the website. But it's a good thing I'll never get in politics or anything, 'cause that would come back to
that would nowadays.
Me, right?
Nowadays, a lot of that stuff wouldn't fly.
It's horrible, right?
Oh boy.
Anyway,
that's awesome, Ash. Who else has played your music?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I think the music that gets played most is just a
lot of the church,
the church, or the stuff I put on the AshleyHallMusic.com Slamhead stuff. I mean, I hope people play it. I mean, Pi's kids did a band and they played some Slamhead stuff.
Really? What's their band called?
Well, do you remember that? Years ago, they were really good in the Valley. I
was probably living away.
They played some cool gigs. Like they played at the. Where did the Cardinals play?
Oh, now the State Farm.
Yeah, the
Stadium?
University of Phoenix Stadium, whatever. I mean, they play these big deals, and they win stuff. But so when they start off, they need to do their own songs. So they did some of our songs, but
okay,
I don't know. But again, I haven't written a pop song that's no one's really covered. McKenna's starting a band, so I'm like, look. Until you get your own songs,
use yours.
Feel free to use any of these songs.
Okay, what's your favorite Slamhead song?
Favorite Slamhead song? Well, there's one I wrote called "The Poet" that I love it. It's one of my favorite songs to play, and I don't know. It's one of the few songs where we went into a studio and actually recorded it. But the studio still messed it up. Every time I listen to it, you can barely hear the guitar.
Right.
But I don't know. I think it's my favorite song.
In all your concerts you've gone to, and you're such a lover of music and musicians, have you ever met any musician that you've...
No, I haven't. I mean, except I'm wearing today a Aquabat shirt.
You've met the Aquabats.
They are my buddies now. I've always looked up to the Aquabats. I think these guys are great. And so happens I live right by two of them. And I become friends. I knew the brother of the singer for a few years, but
and you just went to their show in London, right?
Yeah,
and you were
Sheffield,
backstage
in Sheffield.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's after I gotten to know them. But yeah, super nice, just normal guys. I mean, to me, I think they're amazing because just to make it as a band is great. But these are the guys that did Yo Gabba Gabba,
right? Yeah.
So I mean, and that's you see Yo Gabba Gabba merchandise in China and everywhere.
My girls are obsessed.
Right. So, it's a pretty talented, influential guys, I think.
Have you ever seen the Amy Sedaris episode of Yo Gabba Gabba where she plays the Tooth Fairy?
No.
It is fantastic.
Yeah, I got to see it.
It is one of my favorite things to watch with my kids. It is so funny. In fact, I need to watch that with Cece tonight because she just lost her tooth yesterday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I got to watch it.
Amy Sedaris plays the Tooth Fairy, and it is so creepy yet so funny all at once.
It's awesome. I should just hang out with these guys because they know it's amazing how connected they are.
Well, Ashley,
Like,
why don't you get on stage with them and play a gig? You're so
actually,
talented.
I did my first gig with Crash McLarson.
Okay.
That's his stage name. That's Chad Larson.
Okay.
So at our church, they do every Christmas creche. It's a great community thing.
Right.
So they do like a live nativity. They have art exhibits and all. People donate their nativity sets and all that.
Right.
But then they bring in talent from the community. So we had like this awesome African-American choir that came and sang.
How
School
neat.
choirs will come. So anyway, they asked Chad to play. And so we invited me to help him. So the two of us, arranged like some songs and, we played this music. So that was fun. And then afterwards, he invited me to help him out with some stuff.
Good.
So yeah.
That's exciting.
So yeah, it's fun.
You're so talented. How many instruments do you play?
Well, I dabble.
And you've taught yourself.
Yeah, I dabble. I'm not great at any of them, but I do. I love to collect instruments. So if it's got a string, I probably own it and try to play it. So
how many instruments would you guess you had in your inventory sheet?
Yeah, I've got a lot. Well, I mean, so I've got, all the different types of guitars,
Right.
bass guitars, upright bass, cello. Theron, I keep trying to get Theron's violin from him.
Really?
I'll get it for a while. I'll pay to get it fixed, tuned up, and then he'll take it back.
Really?
So one of these days I'll get that back.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I don't
Don't
think
have a
any of his
viola.
kids play with it.
No, but he should be playing that thing actually.
He should.
But I've got like cool instruments from like the Guzheng from China. It's like their zither thing. I don't know, instruments from Vietnam.
That's neat. And you've collected these from your travels?
When I travel. And then
cool
like different flutes, play horns as well.
You need an inventory sheet of all your instruments.
Yeah.
I'm very fascinated by your inventory sheets, okay?
Yeah?
Your
Okay.
database.
Yeah.
Okay? So we know you have a database for countries you've traveled to, concerts you've seen.
Yeah.
What are some of your other categories?
I know. It's weird.
I'm so fast.
So
It's
I do
not
have
weird.
this,
I think it's awesome. I want to know some other categories.
Yeah. So it's this I do it. It's all in this database.
Okay.
And actually, again, I'll look at my brother here. He turned me on to this app called Bento years ago, and then Apple killed the product. So I found someone else that does what Bento does. So so one is Ash Days, which is my daily journal entry.
Okay.
Which is, a GPS code where I'm in the world.
Wow.
And just what's going on. I do, concerts attended. I do books read. So all the books I've read. I started another one years ago because I remember hearing Dad talking about stuff. Oh, we used to live in a house that was there, but it's no longer there.
Right.
So it's, I call it Ash locations. So places that are important to me, I put the GPS code.
That's amazing.
And so Darren and I, before we went to the Azores, we went through and figured out on a map where were our houses. And so I remember we couldn't find it. So I just moved over, had my iPad, put the GPS coordinate, and it took us right to the house.
Right. So I just want to give a little backstory on this. So you and Theron went back to the Azore Islands off the coast of Portugal with Mom and Dad last year or the year before.
A year before. It was almost 2 years ago.
Almost 2 years ago. And the reason why you went back there is because you guys had lived there, right? For a few years when Dad was in the JAG Corps in the Navy. Yeah. Do you have fond memories of the Azores? How old were you in the Azores?
So young. I mean, I did kindergarten and first grade there.
Wow. So you've got some vivid memories.
Yeah, I got some memories. And, Dad did a great job taking pictures. And we used to watch the slides and all. So I think the fact that he took the pictures, we used to see them, talk about it. I think a lot of that's ingrained. Yeah. And so, it was always been a dream of mine to go back there. Theron had gone a few years before. And so I was totally bummed because I'd wanted to go with them. But we got these great, absolutely dirt cheap tickets. I think it was $400 or $500 for Boston round trip to the Azores, and that included the hotel.
That's amazing.
So,
So when you were there in the Azores, did you remember a few of the places?
Yeah, we did. We did. And we met a guy that let us go on base because they've sold the base to the Portuguese government, but they still have American folks there that help run part of it. And so it's more restricted to get on, but we didn't get on the base until the last day or so that we were there. But other parts of the island and some of the iconic pictures Dad had taken before we went to those places. And
That's so neat.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So fast forward 30 years when you're going back to England with your girls and their spouses and you're tracking along where you lived. Yeah. Your database is
it'll come in handy. Helpful. I hope so, right? I do want to go with Dad, right, and go back to St. John's. Like, tell me where that house was, and let's go there and let's get
go to McNary where Dad was born, because he always drives us through there when we're up there to see where he was born. The hospital that's no longer there, but you can see the, just the location.
Yeah, I know. It's probably. I know it's a bit obsessive, but like I Jeff on our England trip. I was like editing my journal. I thought, that's kind of cool. I'm going to send this to Jeff. And then I plotted like everywhere we went on the trip on the map because I had these coordinates, I know it's obsessive, but I don't know. To me, there's something about that.
It's neat.
This is like where you were 30 years ago.
Wow.
Or,
Well, you have been to so many places and you've lived in so many places. Let's start where you were born in Chicago.
Yeah.
Born in Chicago. Next up, Rhode Island?
Yeah, Mom and Dad, we did a summer or so in Rhode Island. And by the way, no one knows the address of where we lived.
Ashley,
can you believe that? So I want to go to Mom and Dad's house and just sit down and say, come on, there's got to be something. So that's a place that, big old, where was that? Because I'd love to go see it.
Right.
'Cause I know Theron tried to find it, but.
Wow. Okay, so from Rhode Island.
To back to Chicago. Dad graduated. We moved to Corpus Christi, Texas.
Okay.
And then the Azores, then to St. John's.
Okay, let's talk about St. John's for a minute.
Yeah.
St. John's, small little town, northern Arizona, 3,500, 4,000 people maybe at most.
Yeah. I think we hit 5,000 at one point.
But it's amazing.
Yeah.
No matter where you go, I feel like you always find some sort of connection to St. John's.
Seriously.
A lot of great people have come from St. John's, and you always find a connection.
Yeah.
How was it growing up in St. John's?
You know what? I loved it. I mean, now that I think about it, like when I was in high school, I thought I hated it. Like, this place is holding me back, whatever. But I think I really enjoyed it. I mean, I had a good group of friends. It was fun. I mean, something I was talking to my girls about, because they go to these huge schools, right? Which when I was in St. John's, I would have loved something like that, right?
Right.
Because, my big thing was, I can't play in a big symphony orchestra here.
Right.
We couldn't take calculus. We couldn't do this or that. But then I look at what my kids go through now in school. They try to get involved, but these schools are so big, you do one thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like you sing in the choir and that's what you do, or you do this or that. St. John's, you do everything. Right?
I mean, you're not as restricted. And just think about the freedom.
Yeah. The freedom, exactly. You roam around, do what you want. But literally, and because you didn't get this, because you're in a big school in Chile.
Yeah, I left after 8th grade.
But, you are on the speech and debate club, right? You're singing in the choir. You're playing in the band.
Exactly.
You're in the Future Business Leaders of America. You're doing, you do everything, right? Every club that's out. Now, I wasn't much of an athlete. The only sport I did was track. But but the kids get to do everything. Like there's so much they could do. Academic decathlon, right? You can just do tons of stuff, whereas most kids would get to do like one of those things.
Yeah.
So that was good. Yeah, and then the freedom and. I tell my kids, right? I'm like, we'd be upset when we go out to the car and someone had taken the keys out of the car.
Right.
Like you never locked your car. You left the keys in the car. Right. I never had a key to our house.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we probably even locked the door at night. Okay, you mentioned you were not an athlete. I'm going to correct you on that. You were an athlete. You may not have played team sports, but think back to your skateboarding days. You were like the epitome of the 80s skater. I remember your peg jeans and your Vans and doing all those awesome skateboard tricks. And we have a lot of videos to prove it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but that's being an athlete. And then all your backflips on the trampoline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's so, I did. That stuff was, I wouldn't say I wasn't, because I do think I was agile back then when I was half the person that I am now. But, but it was just, didn't translate to,
you didn't play
sports,
you weren't on team sports necessarily, but you were I would definitely say you're an athlete.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Very cool.
Yeah, but it was fun. I enjoy it. But again, back in high school, I would probably sit and say, "Oh, this stinks," but no, but I enjoyed it. It was good. And I enjoyed living with all these other towns around us. So that's something I really enjoyed in high school, is getting to know all the kids around the White Mountains and just realize that a lot of people have these same small town experiences, yet we could get together, right? You had this larger network of
So
folks.
you're talking about Show Low, Snowflake, Round Valley.
Yeah, Holbrook.
Fun. Nice.
All that. Yeah, that was fun.
And you keep in touch with a lot of people from high school?
No, I'm a horrible friend. I mean, I'm really bad.
I wouldn't say you're a horrible friend. You may not be good at keeping in touch, but you're not a horrible friend.
I don't do a good job keeping in touch. I feel really bad about it.
But you do a great job tracking your database. Keeping up with your database.
Yeah. I'm in my
You're
room alone, like,
me. I want to start doing this. No, but I think that's awesome. I'm not making fun of this. I think this is awesome, the database.
Well, the problem, I mean, I do have a lot of obsessive issues, I'm sure. But I think I found ways to
channel them
into stuff. It probably drives my wife nuts, but like when I scanned all of Dad's photos, right?
How long
I
did
knew
that take
that someone obsessive had to do it.
Right.
Because it would have never gotten done.
Right.
That was going to be during my 2-month sabbatical at Intel. I was going to scan these 17,000 picture or scans, right?
Right.
And 2 months into it, I barely scratched the surface.
Right.
And I'm like, I cannot stop. So for the next year and a half, every night, Nikki, before we put the kids down, we've always had a tradition where we watch some TV before we go to bed, right?
Right.
So I just do that with her, but I'm sitting there.
You're scanning.
Running through the scanner. And it just drove Nikki nuts, right? But, I got them done. And now
it's so handy because if I want to go back, the other day I wanted to show Cece what I looked like at her age.
Yeah.
Smug Mug went and found the folder.
Yeah.
I think it was would have been 1988.
Yeah.
And pulled up the photos right there. It's also organized.
Yeah,
so
there's still so much more I want to do with that, right? Because they need to be organized. And
right.
I was going to have Mom do it after she had her surgery and all. I thought, hey, I was going to do this database where we'd have each file name's a unique identifier and type who's in there. But there's some great technology.
Right.
And I don't know if you use I'm sure Apple does it, but I'm obsessed with double backing up everything. So I put everything not only on SmugMug, but I put it on
hard drives or other.
Well, Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Amazon's got this feature. I open on my iPad and it's got a picture of Amy, Jeff's got everybody, and you click on it and here's everybody's.
Wow.
Like it uses this facial recognition. So there's still more we could do to get that organized.
Right.
And then thank heavens I scanned it at the highest level possible, but they're JPEG. Like, why didn't I scan these as RAW files?
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to go do another 18 months.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Or maybe I'll pay my girls to do that.
You need to start a company doing this.
I tried.
Services.
I tried to do this. I tried.
Really? Because I feel like this is, especially now with all of this Ancestry.com and this DNA test, and I just feel like
maybe it's time.
You might want to
maybe it's time to try again.
Yeah.
Seriously, I don't know if you know the story, but back in 2003, because we were pregnant with, we didn't know we were pregnant yet with McKenna.
Okay.
Intel every once in a while does these downsizing, and then they offered up voluntary separation package. And I'm like, that's it.
Sign me up.
I'm going to go do my own thing. I had found this guy on a flight back from London that was in the music business. So he would buy back catalogs of sorry, this is another story.
We love it. Ashley, we're diving in.
So he'd buy back catalogs of music. And so one of them, for example, Ozzy Osbourne's father-in-law was their manager. He sold unexclusive rights to the Black Sabbath back catalog.
Oh my goodness.
So he sold it to multiple people.
Wow.
So he was one of the guys that had access to this. Wow. He had a bunch of the 50s, 60s stuff as well. So I'm on the plane with this guy. I'm like, have you heard of MP3 technology? Because this is all brand new.
Right.
No, never heard of it. Blah, blah. And he, did you ever go to the gas stations or back then and they'd have these really cheap cassette tapes of that you could buy of music?
Oh, yeah. I remember those.
So it's these sorts of people that sell this crap.
That young.
Right? So that's how we do his stuff. So I'm like, hey, let's do this. I knew a guy that was out of work. He had a degree in computer programming. I'm like, dude, let's do this. So we started this business.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, where we were going to do all this stuff, right? And we're going to do MP3s and we're going to sell it, and blah, blah, blah. And 2 months later, I read an article about Apple is creating this thing called iTunes.
Aww.
So I've got this idea before. I'm like, great. So I call up Apple. Who can I talk to about this iTunes project? I've got a catalog of all this old music.
Wow.
And the idea is let's do a discount, right? You'll do your 99 cents a song. This will be your 29 cent or 39. Could not get anyone at Apple to talk to me.
Wow.
So anyway, so during all this, so that's when I thought I was going to leave Intel, right? But I thought, well, this might take a while, so let me do another business. So the other one was, I call it what did I call it? Atoms to Bits, right?
Very cool.
So at Intel, I used to volunteer. I go to these old folk clubs at all the retirement communities and give them presentations on technology. So this is Intel helping the community.
Right.
So my niche was, hey, take your pictures and scan them and do this and that. And so I thought, well, hey, I'm still volunteering, but I'm going to really source it out. I'm like, by the way, there's people that do this. And if you want, here's my card.
Exactly.
And I learned, and sorry to your older audience, what I learned is these old people that are in those homes are the most selfish people. They don't give a damn about their kids because nobody signed up for it. Because I'm telling like, look, take all your pictures, these boxes, scan them. It's atoms to bits, right?
I love
all this stuff
that.
can go on a hard drive.
All your
videos, all your photos, all your documents. When you die, no one's fighting over the pictures, right? Wow. They all have a copy. I didn't get one single phone call. One single phone call. And I did set up the business. I set up the bank account, and one guy asked me to convert his wedding videos. And so I did it for one. I had one whopping client. But it's a great business, right? I'm like, these things are going to deteriorate.
Well, and I feel like nowadays, you might want to give it another push.
Maybe I should give it another push. I have great ideas. They're just at the wrong time. Another one, no lie. I had an idea, escrow.com, when the internet first came out. Because people were worried about how do you transact on the internet.
Right.
Well, let's do escrow, right? I want to buy something from Amy. I don't trust her.
Right.
You send the money to this escrow account. Yep. You get the product, then they release the money.
Exactly.
And then PayPal comes out, right? I'm like, I can't get a break. I have like these ideas, but
right at the wrong time.
Well,
you get them.
Obviously, I'm not a good entrepreneur. I can't make anything happen with it. I failed at that on the Apple Music. Atoms to Bits.
Third time's a charm, Ash.
I saw the website on Atoms to Bits. It was kind of cool.
Your next idea, you got to jump on this. Because you're bright and you're going to make it happen.
There's probably tons of companies doing that stuff now. But I do love doing that stuff. Yeah. And that's why I hope it's a service, right? All the stuff from mom and dad. That's why I want to get, because we all have access to all the photos.
I know.
And I'd love to get all the stuff from Grandma and Grandpa Hall, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone went and just took all this stuff. Right. I'm like, look, chill.
Let's just centralize it.
Let's get all the journals and we'll scan them and everybody has a copy.
Yeah.
And it means so much to people. Like when I dropped off Emma at BYU, Idaho, we stayed the night at Uncle Kim's, and I'm obsessive. I always carry a hard drive in my bag, and we're talking about different things. Somehow we're talking about Grandma and Grandpa Wolfley, and I told him how Grandma let me scan her most special slides. And I did that a while back, and I think I put them up on a website, but I didn't hear from anybody. But they probably saw the email or whatever. Right. So I just copied them on a thumb drive for Kim, and he was ecstatic. There. He was like, this is like
that's a treasure.
A treasure, right?
Right, exactly.
So
that's really neat. Okay, just dropped off. You said you dropped off Emma to college.
Yeah.
So I was just telling my sisters this.
Yeah.
Or during that time when you were dropping her off, you were the one that dropped me off to college. Do you remember that? 1998.
I do remember that.
You were the one that dropped me off in my dorm. And Jeff. It was you and Jeff.
I do remember that.
Oh, you did?
I dropped off Jeff too.
You were with me though. I'm pretty sure you were with me. It was with somebody.
It was either you or Andy. I think it was Andy.
Either way. So anyway, you dropped me off, and I remember listening Helaman Halls, and I remember listening to Blondie during that trip. For some reason, when I think about going to college, it was listening to Blondie in the Forerunner, and you dropped me off. And then you just dropped off your own daughter. That's just crazy.
I know, it's crazy.
Can't believe she's already in college.
That's been crazy. 2 girls in 1 week.
Wow.
Or 1 week for Emma, and then the next week, Stacy.
You will be an empty nester soon.
I know,
so Ash,
4 years.
Enjoy these last 4 years with McKenna.
Yeah.
Play around with the music.
Yeah.
But there's no excuse once you're an empty nester. You got to get this album done.
Yeah.
What's it going to be called? Colors?
Yeah, colors. And then we got to come up with the
music for Uncle Rick.
Because that's going to be a bigger thing. That's going to be a film.
Yeah, that's going to be filmed. That's going to be good.
Colors. Maybe I'll come with something cool. Maybe I'll rip off Echo and the Bunnymen, all my colors or something.
But you really need to do that album.
Yeah, I need to do it. I feel bad because I stopped writing. Right? I don't write much. And I set some goals at the start of this year that I was going to write so many things. And I wrote one piano piece this year, which is better than I've done for the past few years.
Wow.
But that's it. So
yeah. You should pick it back up because clearly you're passionate about it. It makes you happy.
Yeah.
And you need to find the time and do it.
Yeah, I need to do it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for diving in.
Thanks, Amy.
Jeff, we're done.
Sorry.
That's how I hand him off.
I talk too much.
No, you don't, Ash. That's what the whole point of the podcast is about. You're cool. Like, you have good stuff to say.
No.
Yeah.